This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is July 25th, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, joined by my co-host tonight, Kevin Tucker. What is up, Kevin? How are we doing?
Jonathan, I think I'm probably doing a little bit better than you tonight. For those watching on YouTube, they get a special look of Jonathan tonight.
Yeah, I'm wearing sunglasses. For those of you that are not watching on YouTube, I picked up a little, I don't know what it is on my trip, but I've got bilateral viral conjunctivitis, the good old pink eye. So yeah, my eyes look disgusting. I didn't want people to see that, and then like the bright lights just kind of are irritating right now. But the bad thing is, like, I'm not supposed to wear my contacts, and these sunglasses are not prescription, so I literally, like, putting my hand in front of my face is blurry. Like, I'm super nearsighted, or as they say in the medical world, myopic. Yeah, I can't see anything, and I look like a clown wearing sunglasses indoors at 9:30 at night. But here we are. The show must go on.
Yeah, I think you look very stylish. I was going to ask if the long phrase for pink eye, if you learned that from your days in a eye doctor's office. Yeah, I figured that.
Certainly did. Yep, the good old conjunctivitis. But there's allergic conjunctivitis, there's bacterial conjunctivitis, which is like what you think of like with kids and
right.
All that stuff rubbing their eyes. And then there's viral conjunctivitis when you have like a virus, which it seems like I have with like the congestion and all the other stuff that I've got going on. Which like normally there's nothing they can do for that, but my telehealth doctor that I met today put me on some antibiotic drops just in case they'll help. They don't seem to be helping, so I'm just sort of suffering. But here we are. Yeah.
I think we need to start a spin-off show where you just talk about eye health and things. Like, that was very informative. I didn't know that. That was good.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I remember from back in the day. So if you're unaware, first of all, this is still not our day jobs. We do this mostly for fun. But my previous day job, from the point I was like 19 until I left in May of 2019, I worked for an eye clinic, actually, one of the largest cataract surgery centers in the world, actually at the facility that the founder of that clinic, he was like really like instrumental in like revolutionizing cataract surgery. And at least the version of cataract surgery that we're familiar with now. So I worked there. I did all types of measurements for pre-cataract surgery patients. I did just like normal workups that would come in and see our ophthalmologists and optometrists. But I also did what's called fluorescein angiography, where you inject dye into a patient's arm and then you photograph their retina to observe like their blood flow. And then I ended up being like what we called a right-hand technician, basically a scribe for the lead retina surgeon there, and would assist in retina surgery. So I've done it all for the most part when it comes to eyes. And yeah, I know a lot about eyes thanks to my experience there. Sorry to bore everybody, but
no, that was fascinating. A man of many talents. You just never know what you're gonna get.
I didn't say I was talented. I just said I did it. But yeah, I like doing this a lot more, and I probably wouldn't really be doing much of that if I still worked there. So
that's wild. Well, learn something new every day.
Something new every day.
Jonathan, you said you were feeling this right before your golf trip. We talked about your golf trip on the last show, and we got some interesting feedback about the golf trip. Like, you heard some things here after we talked about it on the show. There were some people that were talking about that, weren't there?
Yeah. So I felt a little like scratch in my throat before the golf trip, but I was like, sometimes, like you have like a weird allergy thing and you wake up, you feel a little weird. So I just sort of shrugged it off, but it's just like gotten worse, especially since I've gotten back and didn't sleep much on that trip. But yeah, I wanted to really quick just gauge something here. We might not ever talk about this again, but after we talked about the golf trip on the last episode, I had a few people reach out and be like, hey, you guys should do like a 6-man show, like golf event thing. So if nobody wants to do that and you think it's the dumbest thing ever, we don't ever have to mention this again. But if that is something that you would be interested in, because I will use any excuse in the world to get out and play around a golf, especially with Magic fans. So if you might be interested, if we were to put together some type of golf event, I know this is super random. Pod doesn't have anything to do with golf, but if that's something that would be, of interest to you, let us know either in the YouTube comments, let us know on social media, shoot us a DM, something like that. Like I said, any excuse that I can get to get out on the golf course, I will use that. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, let us know. That would most likely be like an off-season thing, not something that we would probably do during the regular season. But yeah, just let us know. I figured I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, like you said, there were a couple people that mentioned it, and so I was like, we hadn't really thought about it. Now, honestly, not a golfer here, never have been. I'd maybe like to be someday, but yeah, if you are a golf person, like that could be a cool thing. Spend a morning, spend a day with some Magic fans and out on the links. Is that the phrase, right? Did I get that right,
Yeah,
Jonathan?
baby, out on the links, out on the greens,
Love that.
Getting after it. Yeah, whatever you want to refer to it as.
Love
yeah.
That. That's awesome. So here we are, Jonathan. Late July, summertime, off season. Just got done with Summer League. We're right around the corner from the Olympics. We'll talk about that. So it's a little bit quiet in the world of Magic basketball, except our hearts were broken this week about a certain center that played in Summer League. I think it was that today or yesterday? Was that Tuesday or Wednesday? I think it might have been Tuesday.
Today.
Was it today?
I think it was Wednesday.
My days are all running together. That Jay Huff, the shining star not named Tristan Da Silva or Anthony Black or Jet Howard from Summer League, has signed a 2-way deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. Jonathan, I know you were absolutely gutted to hear that.
Yeah, I don't totally understand it other than the fact that we already have 3 centers on the roster, but it's just a 2-way. Like Trevelyan Queen, Admiral Schofield, Kevon Harris, we essentially did not see them at all last year. This team is just so deep, it really doesn't matter. But for no other reason than having Jay Huff, like the ability to send him down to Osceola and help out with the G League Magic, I thought would have been really cool. And he just like played his butt off. Like, I would have liked us to see him, rewarded with a 2-way contract here in Orlando. We're still sitting on 2 of them. I don't know. Obviously, no one knows what the plan is to use those for right now, but he just seems like a really good basketball player. Just really smart, knows where to be, high energy guy, sneaky athlete. They love to use that for us white boys. But yeah, a real glue guy. A real gym rat.
Yeah,
a winner, as they would say. But no, yeah, obviously it's probably not going to be super consequential. But I just felt like it was a really good opportunity for the Magic to pick up a guy that could help out the G League roster. And if we saw some Jay Huff in an Orlando Magic uniform, I would not have been mad at all. But here he is in Memphis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You joked about sneaky athlete. That's what blew me away with him this summer. Was like that dude. His athleticism is legit. Like he was impressive for his size. He's got some length to his wingspan, and so, all those things combined, it was super fun to watch. I was surprised that happened. I really did think that the Magic were going to grab him again. Like you said, we have the 2 spots open. But anyway, wasn't meant to be. I guess he'll go to Memphis. And you know what? He might have some chance to play, on the actual Memphis Grizzlies. I really think there's a chance, especially with Ja. I think it could be fun.
Last thing about Jay Huff is that, like, it's not that he played kind of well. Like, he played really well in each of those games. Like it was obvious to anybody watching that he was going to make a roster some way, whether that most likely would have been, through the 2-way spot that he ended up, in Memphis. But it was obvious to anybody watching that, no, like this guy is going to be on a roster in some way or another next season. So
yeah, just
not meant to be.
Yeah. Another bit of Magic news. Obviously, last week we did talk about the passing of Pat Williams. Obviously, really, really tragic and hard for a lot of the Orlando Magic community and stuff. I did want to mention, Jonathan, that his celebration of life service is coming up this Friday. That's July, 26th? Yeah, 26th at 3 p.m. That's at First Baptist Orlando. If you've ever been to First Baptist, it's a huge, huge church, and it is open to the public. So if you're in town and you want to attend that, they'll probably have room for you there, but it is also going to be live streamed online. They're going to make a link available on Friday. So I'll probably tune in. I'll definitely tune in that way. But if you're local to Central Florida and you want to pay your respects to Pat Williams, you can do that at First Baptist Orlando. Again, that's Friday, July 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Jonathan, we also got to hear a little bit of KCP. he was in action there on the Draymond Green show. Now, Jonathan, you know how I feel about Draymond Green, but I'll let the rest of the world know.
I feel the same way.
Can't stand the guy. I cannot stand Draymond Green. I think he's an overrated basketball player, and he's a even more overrated personality. I don't know why TNT keeps bringing him on. I don't get it. I hope he's not a eventual permanent member of the Inside the NBA crew, although we'll talk about that in a second.
It doesn't seem like we're going to have to worry about that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but he was on Draymond's last episode of his podcast. It was like an hour and 3 minutes long. He did talk about the Magic for the last 10 minutes. I know we got to talk a little bit about that segment there earlier. Do you want me to kind of go through some of the highlights before you kind of give your thoughts on that? I mean, let me go through it for you guys. He talked about several things. Like I said, it was only about 10 minutes that he spent talking about the Magic. The previous 53, we're talking about Denver and LA and all that kind of other stuff. But a couple things that stuck out as far as KCP. Obviously, he talked about Paolo, referred to him as a generational talent, which everybody knows. Well, ball knowers know that. Some people compare him to Scotty Barnes. I don't know if we want to talk about that sometime today. Maybe we will. But obviously, KCP knows better than that. Mentioned Franz. And one of the things that Draymond talked about it as well, the fact that the Magic paid Franz this summer was a big deal to Draymond. I don't care what Draymond thinks, but KCP also thought it was cool that the Magic are paying the players that they think are deserving. KCP said he's excited to be around, players that are focused on winning, which he saw the Magic do that in the playoffs. He mentioned that watching in the playoffs made it easy for him to pick us, and that he wanted to come to Orlando just as much as Orlando wanted him. Talked about being in the backcourt with Suggs, all defensive player. He was really hyped up about that. Talked about Dre said that KCP guards Steph as good as anyone in the league, which was high praise for that. Again, even though I don't care what Draymond thinks. And then KCP said that we already have a formula for success because we're grounded on defense and hard work and all those kinds of things. So that was a lot of a summary. If you haven't watched it, I don't normally point to Draymond's show, but go watch the last 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes only of Draymond's show to hear KCP talk about Orlando. But Jonathan, what do you think about KCP on Draymond's show?
One thing I want to ask you really quickly, you said Draymond is an overrated basketball player. Do you mean now or historically?
Now especially. I think slightly historically, because I genuinely believe if Draymond is on a different team without Steph and Clay, he is talked about totally differently. And I don't mean a little bit differently. I mean totally. I think he would have been a very, very good glue guy. Like very good, but not anything more than that. And I think because he was surrounded with Steph and Clay, it elevated his stock way too high. But now especially, the fact
I have a hot take.
Yeah. Okay.
I think you can say that about all three of their guys.
All three of their guys.
Steph, Clay, and Draymond. To lesser extents, Steph and Clay, I think Steph still would have been great. Yeah. He doesn't win 4 titles, right? Clay might be viewed the most differently out of all of those guys, just because I think what Clay or what Draymond and Steph both brought allowed Clay to just be the very best version of himself. Mm-hmm. Where elsewhere, if he wasn't in that type of system with a guy like Steph who was drawing so much gravity, right? And I think they all also benefit from the fact that they were being coached by Steve Kerr, which regardless of what you think of Steve Kerr at this point, the things that he was implementing offensively and just creating that system at the time, because of the level of talent they had, it seemed revolutionary. So that's my hot take on those guys. But regardless of that, what do we think of the KC3PO nickname for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope? Some people have thrown that out. I don't love it. I don't hate it. Ties into the Disney, kind of Star Wars stuff. Yeah. Especially Star Wars Night that they have each year. You almost have to refer to him as KC3PO.
It's just a lot. That's a lot of syllables. It's not easy. KC3PO. It's a hard pass for me. And I
probably not a
Star
regular
Wars
thing.
Night, I don't even think Star Wars Night can pull it off. But anyway.
Okay. But no, I thought the interview was cool. Like you, I don't put a ton of stock into what Draymond says, but I do think that Draymond knows basketball, and the fact that we have guys on a regular basis, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Draymond Green, Paul George, all just referring to the fact that Paolo is one of those guys moving forward. When I see dumb people online, you referred to the Paolo Banchero and Scotty Barnes poll that we retweeted to Twitter or to X earlier today, and overwhelmingly people are taking Paolo. Who would you have basically moving forward is the question, and overwhelmingly the answer is Paolo. But when you read through the comments and you see some people say Scotty Barnes, it's like, well, you're just not watching Paolo Banchero
right
whatsoever. But the fact that a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who has been around Anthony Davis and LeBron James and Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray, all those kind of guys, the fact that he's able to see what this young Magic team has and realize the fact that they're on the come up, and the fact that he's saying, hey, I wanted to be here just as badly as they wanted me to be here. That says a lot about this situation, and it just makes me more excited to see those guys in the regular season here in a couple of months.
Yeah, there's a difference between someone saying, oh yeah, Paolo, he's good, and saying, hey, I'm going to uproot my whole family and move to Central Florida to go play with him. Now, obviously, he got paid, right? That's obviously a big part of it, but there were other options to get paid. And so, yeah, I think his actions speak louder than words, and that the fact that he, did that, changed his whole course of his career just to go play with Paolo and Franz and all that stuff, it speaks a lot. So we joked earlier about Draymond inside the NBA. What drama? What's wasn't TNT's old phrase, we know drama? Well, they definitely know drama right now because they're involved in some drama with the NBA. So if you haven't been following, the NBA was up for new rights agreements this summer. And so basically all the big TV corporations, ABC/Disney, TNT, whoever else, in this case, it was NBC and Amazon, came to the table and were like, hey, we're throwing a bunch of money at the NBA to try and bid for the TV deal and stuff for the next 10 years, starting in next year, 2025. And so there's this whole thing about NBC dropped a ton of money, Amazon dropped a ton of money, and there was all this speculation if TNT was going to be able to match it. Well, TNT came out earlier this week, I think Monday, and said, hey, we matched it. Boom. They put in a public statement and everything. And so contractually, it was believed that TNT was going to be able to secure the rights to the NBA because contractually, all they had to do was match one of those offers and they would get it. Today, the NBA announced all of the rights deals starting in 2025, which you have, of course, ESPN/ABC/Disney. They got the big one, of course. NBC Universal also got a package, which means we'll have games on NBC as well as Peacock. And then Amazon was the third member of that. So we're going to have some games on Amazon Prime. None of this has been really specifically laid out yet as far as schedule and all that kind of stuff, some general stuff. But what wasn't there was Turner. TNT not listed on the official announcement about these. And they have claimed, the NBA claims that TNT did not match those other deals. TNT has come out and said they did match the deals. So there's going to be all kinds of legal stuff that I won't even fully understand, and I'm not going to go into. That's going to be some drama off the court. But what we do know is, as of right now, according to the NBA, inside the NBA on TNT is going to be done after next season. So next season will be their last season. We don't know if that means that inside the NBA crew is going to go to a different network, although Ernie Johnson has said he's not going to go to a different network. We'll see if that's true. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on this whole debacle and ultimately potentially the end of the road for inside the NBA after next season?
Yeah, and I think even Charles Barkley has said that he's going to retire after this coming year. So who knows what it's going to look like moving forward. When it comes down to the rights and the legality of it, I don't really care about that. Just inside the NBA has just been such a staple of the NBA and watching the NBA for so long, and it's such an ingrained part of the culture of the NBA at this point, and at least the entertainment side of the NBA. It's really going to be difficult to imagine life without inside the NBA. And, it's going to create this void that I don't know is possible really to be filled. I know that people have their issues with, the basketball commentary when it comes to inside the NBA, like you and I talked about on the last episode. It's impossible for a human being to watch all 30 teams to the level where you can really be knowledgeable and carry on a conversation past a couple of sentences, right? Like if there's 9 or 11 games on a given night in the NBA slate, it's impossible to be able to watch all of those at length, like gain the proper context, and to do that on a regular basis, to be able to carry a meaningful conversation about 30 NBA teams. It's just impossible. So when these guys inside the NBA, when they try to act like they know what they're talking about with these specific teams, and it just becomes so blatantly and painfully obvious that after 5 seconds they have no idea what they're talking about, you almost wish they would just say like, oh, hey, we don't really watch those teams, so we don't really know exactly what is going on at times. But I think it's undeniable, like the entertainment value that they bring and like that, comedic factor that they bring to NBA culture in general. Like there have just been so many great memories over the years and so many memes that have been birthed from inside the NBA. And when you just talk about like 4 like pillars of the NBA media space and Shaq, Ernie, Kenny, and Chuck, I'm going to miss them. I know there are plenty of people that feel the other way. They can't wait for inside the NBA to be over with. But I personally am really going to miss it if this is, in fact, the last season that we'll have of Inside.
Yeah, it'll be so interesting to see if this is the last season, which all indications are pointing that way. 2 things. Number one, how their last season goes. Like inside the NBA, it's going to be interesting on 2 fronts. Number one, nostalgic, and they're going to have all these moments of, celebrating and remembering all that kind of stuff. Number 2, I think there's going to be some salt on that set. Like Charles Barkley, no filter. That dude's going to be talking bad about the NBA, Adam Silver, TNT executives, whatever. That's going to be an adventure. But yeah, if it is the end, that's going to be tough. You and I haven't even really talked about this. I'm going to try to summarize as best I can what this whole announcement means as far as like national TV schedules and stuff, because they have laid out some of the game plan as far as certain nights and certain networks and all that kind of stuff. It would be much better for you listening or watching to go check this out. NBA released this on their communication, on their PR website, literally pr.nba.com. Go read it all for yourself to get the whole gist of it. But it is a little bit interesting. First and foremost, like I said, ABC, ESPN keeps all this. They keep the finals. That's going to stay there. They're still going to do Saturday night prime time and Sunday ABC games, all that kind of stuff. Wednesday ESPN, sometimes Friday. A lot of ABC doesn't change. What does change, what is interesting, is that there'll be way more nationally televised games now, because NBC is now getting multiple games per week. So every Tuesday night, NBC will telecast 2 games across certain NBC stations, which is weird. But they're also going to have Sunday night games on NBC. Sunday night basketball, basically after football season. That's going to be pretty cool. Like that, I feel like that's going to be like some of the most peak matchups of the country, which means the Magic probably won't be selected, unfortunately.
Round ball rock, baby.
Yes, exactly. NBC is also going to be the new home of All-Star Weekend, which that's going to be interesting. But hearing Round Ball Rock for like All-Star Weekend, I might get excited for the All-Star game again just because of this song. And then lastly, talking about, by the way, there's other stuff with that, with Peacock and all that kind of stuff. So go check it out. And then Amazon is going to get 66 regular season games on Prime Video. So specifically, exclusively on Prime Video, including Thursday night doubleheaders starting in January, Friday doubleheaders, and select Saturday afternoons, as well as all the quarterfinals and semifinals of the NBA Cup, as well as the championship game of the NBA Cup. So they basically own the NBA Cup and some other stuff. Anyway, lots more to that. Definitely check it out. It's going to be interesting. It's a new era of basketball, and let's just say the NBA is getting paid handsomely for it. That's going to be fun.
Remember when like everybody got rid of cable because like everything was going to streaming and it was less expensive? Yeah. Now, like legitimately, if I want to be able to watch the golf tournament every week, I have to have Peacock. If I want to watch Summer League and a lot of this FIBA stuff, I have to have ESPN Plus. If you want to watch the Magic games, if you don't have cable, you have to have Bally Sports Plus. Yeah, you've got to have the Disney if you want to watch stuff for the kids. Everybody has Amazon anyway, so you might as well have Amazon Prime. That show's not on this, but it's on Apple TV. I've been dying to watch that. Let me have that. Oh, well, we got to have Hulu. Oh, well, Stranger Things is coming back. Don't forget about Netflix. Like, if you put it all together, we're getting just taken 7 ways to Sunday, man, with these streaming deals. It's getting so ridiculous. And pretty soon, like, one of the reasons I actually have cable, because when we're live tweeting games and we're reacting to games, I want to be able to react as quickly as possible. When you stream, like, just the technology right now, you're usually on like a 30-second delay at best. Sometimes it's a minute to a couple of minutes. And I'm just waiting for the point where I'm not able to watch games on cable anymore.
Yep.
Like that's absolutely coming.
It's literally coming with the Amazon thing, like exclusively on Amazon. And like I said, Peacock, there was some Peacock information as well in here about certain things being only on Peacock. But anyway,
I'm glad I have that already.
Yeah,
Good
exactly.
grief.
Yeah. So anyway, it's very interesting. But yeah, you're right. Like all those things combined, we're basically paying for cable again as far as like, amounts and stuff. But anyway, that's a whole year away. Obviously, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Jonathan, today on this episode, we have two big chunks of Magic stuff. Fun little Magic conversations we wanted to go through. The first one is this. Well, actually, I'm going to tease the second one because I want people to stay tuned for that. At the end of the show, Jonathan and I are going to do a little show and tell for everybody. Magic show and tell, I mean. So we're going to go through and show off some fun little bits of Magic memorabilia that we have and tell some stories behind it and stuff. Is there anything you want to add to you look like you want to say something?
No, I'm just thinking like right now the prompter I typically use, I can't see anything on it, so I'm actually going to have to bring this down to this screen when we get to that portion of it. So I'm just thinking out loud here. But before we get into that stuff, I wanted to take a second just remind everybody about Olympic basketball coming up starting this week. If you're just focused on the Magic and Mo and Franz Wagner, you really just have to pay attention to Germany. So Germany's schedule, it starts Friday, the 27th at 7:30 a.m., Germany versus Japan. Then on Tuesday, the 30th, they'll take on Brazil at 3 o'clock. And then next Friday, August 2nd, they'll play France. So that'll be in the group stage. And as long as Germany finishes as one of the top two teams in their group, they'll advance to the knockout round. There's 3 groups. So I believe there will be 2 of the top third place teams that will advance as well into the knockout round. So if the German national team can take care of business against Japan and Brazil, they will most likely end up moving on to the knockout round. So just something to keep your eye out on. Germany, by the way, almost took down Team USA again. If it was not for the heroics of LeBron James, like had they beat not only the FIBA World Cup roster, but also like the Olympic roster, I still feel really good about Germany's chances in this Olympic tournament. But man, what a confidence boost that would have been for them. And I still think it is a confidence boost for them. The fact that they were able to, hang with Team USA until literally the final minutes of that game. I think Germany has a chance to go all the way. I'm really excited for the Olympics.
I'll just say Team USA back to back. Little shaky performances. Not great trending going into the actual Olympics. The game against South Sudan, the game against Germany. Again, both games coming down to the wire and LeBron quite literally saving their tails.
It is crazy how good the dude still is.
Crazy, man. Crazy. So anyway, thanks for those reminders, Jonathan. We'll do show and tell a little bit later. We were thinking about this. It has been coming up on probably 4 years, maybe 3 years and some change since you and Luke went through what we'd call like a what if episode. You went through the past of the Orlando Magic and what are some what ifs? Like what if this happened? What if this was different? What if all those kinds of different scenarios? But it's been so long that we've done that. So we thought, what if we go through what ifs from the last, 5 years or so? There's a lot that's happened over the last few years as far as playoffs in 2019 to blowing up the team in 21 to drafting Paolo in the playoffs this year and everything in between. And so, Jonathan, I thought it would be kind of fun if we did that. We kind of went through some of these things that went over the last few years because these were all different inflection points for different reasons. So I think the first one definitely want to look at 2019. If I can refresh everyone's memory about 2019, terrible start. Season was bad. We thought everything was falling apart. And then the team went on a 22-9. Is that the number? What was the number?
Yeah,
22-9.
10 or 11 games below 500, and then they go 22-9 over the last 31.
22-9 over the last 31 to squeeze their way into the playoffs for the first time since Dwight. And that was an incredible feeling. I still remember that game in Boston where the Magic clinched the playoffs for the first time since the Dwight era, which was incredible. And you go to the playoffs, you face the Toronto Raptors. You're outmatched on paper. You have no chance. You're going up north, we the North, all this kind of stuff. And then DJ Augustine delivers as it was said on the broadcast, and the Magic win game 1 in 2019, go up 1-0 in the series. Of course, they ended up losing in 5. Raptors ended up winning the championship. But our first what if, Jonathan, what if the Magic don't win game 1 in 2019? There are a lot of different ways you can cut this up. Maybe what if the team doesn't go on that run? What if, whatever. What if this team doesn't end the season like they do? Maybe that's a better way to put it. Jonathan, what are your thoughts about that as far as how this season ended in 2019?
Yeah, the more that we talk about it, I do think the more interesting question is like, what if that team just doesn't have that run, and if they don't make the playoffs? Like, if they go on that run, let's say they go 20 and 11, over the course of that last 31, and they end up missing the playoffs. We've never heard an official confirmation from management or, upper management or anything like that about this perceived mandate when Jeff Weltman and John Hammond came in and took over the team in 2017. But it seemed like there was a mandate of, we've missed the playoffs, so many years in a row at this point. We need to go ahead and turn this team like into a winning roster. They evaluate the team for 1 year. They get rid of Frank Vogel. They bring in Steve Clifford, who helps the team go on that run in the second year of the John Hammond and Jeff Weltman regime there, and they end up making the playoffs. Now, them making the playoffs, winning game 1, sort of validated the thinking that, like, hey, this team is only a few pieces away from maybe not being able to contend, but actually be competitive in the East. And I think them going on that run to end the season, you were really able to, it was almost like confirmation bias. Like, you were able to buy in until to that core that we had and say, hey, if we're just able to make a couple of tweaks here, a few guys get better and we have some internal improvement, we could be like a middling Eastern Conference team. And I do think that there's the potential that if that season just goes absolutely wrong, right, the front office is able to turn and say, hey, this is the ceiling of this team. Now let's kind of do the thing that we have in mind, which I think is going to be part of the next question, where we blew up the team in 2021. It seemed like ultimately this front office was just sort of biding its time until they got a real opportunity and got the green light to be able to do that. So if they don't win game 1, obviously they get swept. But I think more importantly, if they don't make the playoffs, we probably see that pivot a little bit sooner than 2021, I think. What about you?
Yeah, I think confirmation bias is the perfect phrase for it, because I think there was some pressure for the Magic to just get good, kid. It's been too long. And so when that happened, you make that run, you get in the playoffs, you win game 1. I think there's definitely something to that. I also think it's kind of funny because the Raptors, like I said, ended up winning the championship. I wonder if that also fed them a little bit. It's like, well, everybody else lost to them, so yeah, we lost to them too. Although that also doesn't give any credit to what I still believe is the wildest and greatest buzzer beater in NBA playoff history. That Kawhi buzzer beater against Philadelphia, I still think is the craziest thing I've ever seen in the history of the sport. That was
You think that beats
insane.
the Ray Allen 3 in 2013?
Oh, for sure. It also might be because I hate the Heat, but for me, like that was insane. How that thing just danced around the rim and it like time froze, like just stood still. It was amazing. Anyway, I think all of that maybe did contribute to that. And so I think it's very possible that the team, maybe gets blown up that summer instead. But at least it led to some fun moments for you and I and for all Magic fans, because that was an amazing run. Game 1 of the playoffs was really fun. Games 2, 3, 4, and 5, though, were so unfun. Although part of game 3 was fun.
Yeah.
But game 4 and 5, good grief. That was awful. That was no fun. But anyway, that definitely does lead, Jonathan, to this second idea of 2021, when these trades actually, hold on. Let's do this one first. Let's do the bubble first, okay? 2020 is when, obviously NBA, COVID, lockdown, all that kind of stuff. We started the bubble at Disney. Aaron Gordon gets hurt. Jonathan Isaac gets hurt. Magic find themselves, after the handful of games that they still had to play before the playoffs officially started, they find themselves against the Milwaukee Bucks. But now they're without their 2 best wing defenders, in Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Isaac, and they're coming up against a guy by the name of Giannis. And so obviously we also, if maybe you don't know, if you're a newer Magic fan, Magic win game 1, as we so often do, except for this year, win game 1, in Orlando. It was thrilling. Although you go on to lose the next 4 games and your gentleman swept again.
Quite literally. Yeah, I was like, in Orlando, I was like, wait a minute, they're in the bubble. But I mean,
that's
you know,
what I meant.
Yeah.
In Orlando, yeah. Which, by the way, that's another claim to fame. I got to attend Game 3 as a virtual fan, but I was there. No, just kidding. So let's say, Jonathan, this what if Aaron Gordon and Jonathan Isaac don't get hurt before the playoffs? You're coming up against the Bucks. You're coming up against this formidable wing in Giannis Antetokounmpo. What do you think happens as far as AG and JI not getting hurt?
I think the Magic probably most likely end up losing that series. However, I think it happens in 7 games, right? Like we saw Gary Clark in that first game and the way that he was able to defend Giannis and, you know, spread the floor a little bit. I just think having the ability to throw both Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon at Giannis Antetokounmpo would have been enough to throw him off his game just a little bit. People forget how good Nikola Vucevic was in that series. I think he averaged like 28 points per game, like something ridiculous. And he was so good from behind the arc. I think it was like 40 or 45% from behind the arc in that series. Like, you know, the Magic win game 1 in 2019. They get swept, or gentlemen swept. Vooch gets $100 million in that offseason. Terrence Ross gets like a 3-year, $36 million deal, like something, similar to that. And all offseason, people were like, well, Vooch just got completely shut down by Marc Gasol. Like, was it really worth it? So on and so forth. Doesn't make the All-Star team that year like he had the year before. But we get into that playoff series, and the question is like, oh, well, now he's going up against Brook Lopez. Like, what is he going to look like? And Vooch he torched the Bucks, for the 5 games of that series. So he was so great offensively. And I think, Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon, weren't these incredible offensive wings, but I think they would have been able to give you just a bit more offensively. And we mentioned the fact of what they would have given you on the other end defensively. I just think having both of those guys healthy, and by the way, as good as Jonathan Isaac looked in those first couple of bubble games before he gets hurt, I really think we have a real chance to win that series. But I think if nothing else, it goes at least 7.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I really, really genuinely think the Magic could have pushed it to 7. I really do. And maybe even won the series. Like, I think that team, I don't want to say they were good enough. I think they had I think it would have been a good matchup for the Magic. I think against other teams, I think there was a good chance the Magic end up struggling, even if fully healthy. But I think this Bucks team in particular, the Magic had a good chance. Again, Jonathan Isaac, bubble Jonathan Isaac before the injury. I know it was a short little stint there. But, I mean, the dude was so good, both ends, but so good defensively, obviously. But, yeah, looking at that series, like, because those guys go out, you end up starting James Ennis III and Gary Clark. Gary Clark, if I'm remembering right, again, this has been 4 years. He had one really, really, really good game, and I don't remember much after that, Like, the fact you had to start James Ennis III and Gary Clark, 2 great guys. 2 serviceable guys, but you're having to put those 2 up against Giannis and company. To me, let's not forget that they still had Chris Middleton. They had Eric Bledsoe, Wesley Matthews, Brook Lopez. That was their starting 5. You were never going to have a chance after that. And so I think you have AG, you have JI, you at least give yourself a chance, and I think they could have pushed it to 7 games. I really do. And
I do think this sort of leads into our next question is, if you win that playoff series, even given the way that next season goes, I guess I'm sort of jumping into our next question already, which the what if would be, what if this team, they don't blow up the team at the trade deadline in 2021? I think if you win that series, does Aaron Gordon come to the conclusion early in that year where he wants to request a trade? Are you able to then turn around and say, hey, I know we just won a playoff series, but we're going to go ahead and pivot and blow this team up? I think you'd have a real tough time pitching that to fans and to ownership that, hey, we just won a playoff series against one of the better players in the league this past year. Granted, it was in the COVID bubble and it was different circumstances, but it becomes a bit more tricky to make that big move in 2021, I think, if you win that series.
Yeah, I think that I guess leads to this, like what if that doesn't happen, right? Like what if those trades don't happen in 2021? Vooch isn't sent to where'd he go? Chicago. Vooch is sent to Chicago. Evan is sent. AG doesn't go to Denver. Like, what if all those things don't happen? I think there's two ways you can look at it, right? Number one, you can look at it as far as the current, at the time, the current team, right? Like that current team would stick around. Who knows how long they last? If you're asking me, I think they only last another year, maybe two, and they end up doing exactly the same thing, blowing the team up. Obviously, it would have had to been in a different way, but they blow the team up. But then you look at it on the reverse side, Jonathan. If that deal isn't made then, the Magic aren't with Franz Wagner. They don't have Wendell Carter Jr. They don't have Jet Howard.
Probably don't have Jalen Suggs.
Don't have Jalen Suggs. And that's not even considering, what happens in the 21-22 season. What draft pick do you end up with? If that team sticks together, you're probably not ending up with the number one pick. So you're not ending up with Paolo. You know what I'm saying? Like there's two totally different sides of this. Like what happens with that team, AG, Vooch, and Evan, and then what happens in the future. Like that one has a ton of what ifs attached to it.
Yeah, I think like the Aaron Gordon thing probably still ends up happening, but they frame it in terms of like we're retooling rather than rebuilding, right? Like if they don't make the decision is just blow everything up, then you probably hang on to Vooch.
That's so Jeff Weltman of you, by the way. Retooling. I see you.
Well, I think a lot of Magic fans, like myself included, in the moment when the Vooch trade was made, because I wanted Vooch to be in pinstripes for his entire career, but I think part of our issue is like this is a guy who sure he's probably you don't want him to be like your first or second option, but his game isn't really predicated upon his athleticism. So the things that he does well, he will probably still able to do well later into his career underneath the proper context. We see him struggling in Chicago, and I'm certainly not advocating to go back in time and change what we did at that deadline. I think it really worked out well for us.
Big time.
But I do think like at that time, you could have talked yourself into like, hey, we're just going to retool and sort of reshape this roster a little bit and stay competitive. But I think where you would end up is where the Chicago Bulls are now, or where the Atlanta Hawks are now, where you've tried to make these moves to keep yourself competitive, but you're just like spinning your wheels in the mud. Like you're not really going anywhere. So credit to Jeff Weltman and John Hammond. It felt ballsy in the moment to go ahead and make those moves. And I certainly was, a critic of those moves, but ultimately I don't know how you argue with the results.
Yeah. It's so that one to me is pretty crazy. I think, especially the Vooch thing, like again, if there are Magic fans out there that weren't fans, or listeners or viewers that weren't fans during 2021, we all expected the Evan thing. We all expected the AG thing.
Evan was going to be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, and there were talks about him being dealt for like the previous 3 seasons.
Right. But the Vooch thing shocked at least 90% of Magic fans, I would guess. Like, shocked. I still remember, like, it's one of those weird things. We're talking about how I'm a loser later when we get to show and tell. I'm a loser. But I still remember, like, where I was, what I was doing when the Vooch news hit my phone. Like, could not believe it. Again, hindsight, I'm glad we did that. I know it's hard to say, but it worked out. Like, thank you, Chicago, as we say, Anyway.
And the fact that it was the first of those dominoes, right?
Yes.
Like we were expecting Aaron Gordon news, we were expecting Evan Fournier news, but then to get the notification from Woj on Twitter that Nikola Vucevic and Al-Farouq Aminu were being traded to the Chicago Bulls, it was like, this has to be a typo. Yeah. I remember exactly where I was sitting. I was sitting at the den in the back of our house. My wife and I were both working from home. It was COVID, and since COVID. And I turned around and said, like, they traded Vooch. Like I remember going to bed that night, and I was teary-eyed going to bed that night thinking about Vooch not being a Magic. And then the next day when we got the press conference, his first press conference with the Chicago Bulls, and him getting emotional, I legitimately mourned that trade for a solid 4 to 5 days. Like waking up thinking about it, going to bed thinking about it, was just incredibly upset about that deal. And I know this is may not be the popular or the consensus opinion. I still hope we find a way to have Vooch end his career in Orlando.
Absolutely. I would be surprised. There probably are, but I'm sure most people would love to see him back in a appropriate role, right? Like, I think most Magic fans would love to see that. But
well, I think we wanted to see it with a lot of guys, that
Right.
it didn't end up happening with. So I'll be happy if it does, but I don't want to be let down again. So not counting on it, at
Right.
least for now.
Right. Our next what if came in the next year. Summer of 2022, we just mentioned Magic get the number 1 overall pick. Number 1
This
overall
one
pick.
is this one I really don't want to think about.
Yeah. This one, bro. Let's say all those other what ifs before this happened as they actually did, and we get to this one, and this one's different. You and I might not be having this conversation. This podcast might have fallen apart if we had 3 more years of the mess that we had before this. But anyway, 2022, Magic get the first overall pick. You have the pick of the litter, as they say. You can pick any player in the world. The Magic draft Paolo Banchero. But what if they didn't, Jonathan? There was a lot of speculation. Jabari Smith Jr. was going to go number 1. Chet Holmgren was available. Spoiler alert, I wanted Chet. But we end up with Paolo. What happens if we don't do that, Jonathan? Do we even want to think about this?
There are things that I don't want to joke about that my mental health just would not have been good the last couple of years if in the instance where we don't select Paolo Banchero and we take one of those other guys that were talked about at the top of the draft. I'm just going to say Jabari Smith, right? Because Jabari Smith Jr. was the guy that I had come out and revisionist history is a heck of a drug. But if you actually go back and listen to our pre-draft coverage that year, my takes on Jabari Smith Jr. and sort of believing in him to be the pick was that all of the reporting that we were getting, from Woj and all these other people were that the Magic were focusing on Jabari Smith Jr. to be the number 1 overall pick. If you go back and you watch his tape at Auburn, obviously the defense pops out at you, but like the shot making, like the jump shot making really jumps out to you. And my thought process in watching Chet and watching Paolo is that if they believe Jabari is the guy, they must believe that he is going to be able to evolve into a number 1 option eventually. And given what we had seen the year before with drafting Franz Wagner and just some of the other pieces that this team has been able to accumulate over the course of the last few years, I believed that if this front office believes it's the guy, then this is the guy. And I don't think that faith was misplaced because they knew he wasn't the guy and they knew that Paolo was the guy. But if you go back and listen to that, yes, I wanted Jabari, but it was basically copium, me talking myself into, well, if they say this guy is the guy, then he's going to end up being this multi-time all-star and so on and so forth. But if the Magic did not pick Paolo Banchero and they picked a Chet Holmgren or what I would believe probably would still have been the most likely next pick would be Jabari Smith Jr., the outlook of this franchise just looks completely different. As good as Chet Holmgren has been, you have to view that in the proper context, that he's in this great system in Oklahoma City. He's with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the very best players in the league. He's with Jalen Williams. They have a slew of other really good role players there in Oklahoma City. Chet does not look nearly as good as he has. Number one, we miss out an entire year on Chet because he was hurt, during the Pro-Am with Paolo. So we don't see him the first year that he's in the league. There is a higher chance that we have Wemby on this roster right now if the Magic were to have drafted Chet Holmgren or Jabari Smith Jr. Yeah, I was thinking about that as we were getting ready to do the pod here. But the Magic just are not anywhere near where they are right now if they do not draft Paolo Banchero. And like you look at inflection points throughout the course of a franchise's history, this is absolutely one of them. Like in 5 years, when we do another what if, and we start at what if the Magic don't lose Shaq in 1996, and we go through the rest of it, one of the things that you will have to talk about is the Paolo Banchero draft and what would have happened if they did not take him. And honestly, I don't even want to imagine a reality where that happens.
I'm not going to regurgitate everything you said because I agree with it, except for one thing. hot take. Now, first before I say my hot take, 100% agree. Magic would not be where they are today. The outlook, as I've said before on the show, is brighter now than it has ever been. I really believe that. Compared to the past eras, Shaq, Dwight, all that kind of stuff, I think this team has a chance to do something really special. Where I disagree with you, Chet Holmgren with Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs is still a really good core.
It is, but
now,
I don't think
year,
Chet is what we've seen from him so far. I think that's just the point I was trying to make.
I know. We have one more year of misery because, like you said, he doesn't play in his first year. But Chet and Franz and Jalen still gets me excited. Now, Paolo is different. I really believe that Paolo is different. I don't know that Chet can ever truly become a number one option. I don't actually believe that to be true. So there is that. But Chet, Franz, Jalen still gets me a little excited. You know, that defensive Chet, come on now. That gets me going.
I would say if last year everything would have been on Franz's shoulders, like squarely on Franz's shoulders, and we still had Jalen Suggs, shooting. Now he did have the big, improvement, and It would have been fun to see, Jalen and Chet, the mini haha teammates, childhood friends, like back together on the same team. That would have been fun. But no Chet, Franz having to do everything every single night. I don't know that it would have been as fun as maybe we're saying that it could have been. But it's possible that it could have been a lot of fun. Yeah. But I'm taking Paolo 1,000 times out of 1,000 from that draft.
As am I. I just wanted to say I also did want Chet in the draft, so I'm also trying to back myself a little bit. But anyway, all right, we advance another year. Okay, here we are, 2024, right? Here we are. Oh, that's 2 years, I guess. 2024. Time flies. Magic in the playoffs, which wouldn't have happened if we drafted Chet, by the way. Wouldn't have happened. We're in the playoffs, face the Cavs, hard-fought series. Every home team wins every game. You advance to Game 7. Do or die. Magic have an 18-point lead in the first half. But what if they don't blow that lead? What if the Magic win Game 7 against the Cavs? You move it on to the second round against the Celtics. What happens there? I'll let you talk about that. And then what does that mean long-term for this team? But first, Jonathan, what do you think? What happens? What if the Magic win Game 7 in Cleveland?
I think that would have been such a major confidence boost. And folks, like, strap in your seatbelts because we're about to go on the Homer, bias express here. I genuinely think that team would have gained so much confidence from that first game series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And at that point, they would have proven like, hey, we actually can play well and we can win on the road. Now, everything in that next series against Boston would have been ratcheted up in terms of pressure and, away game atmosphere. Obviously, you're playing in Boston, a very hostile environment. You're playing a much better Boston Celtics team. But this Magic team had proven earlier in the year and the year prior that, hey, with this Boston roster, like, we can go toe-to-toe with them and we can be super competitive. I think the Magic still end up losing that series, most likely in 5 or 6 games. But I do think that series would have been the Celtics' most competitive series of their entire championship run.
I like it. Now, I almost wonder if, similar to 2009 Magic Lakers, which is still, to me, the closest 5-game series in NBA history. You had 2 games go to overtime, and the other one was a final possession. I wonder if it would have been like that, right? Like, maybe it was a 5-game series, maybe 6. So on paper, it wasn't close, but every game was a battle. Like, I could see that. I could totally see that happening, which would have been good for the Magic, I think, too. Like, a really, really good experience for them going forward. Yeah, I can totally buy into that. I think winning Game 7 would have been a really big announcement to the NBA world, too. Like, in some ways, it already was. Like, the first round series, pushing the Cavs to 7. The Magic obviously now have more attention, more eyeballs than we've had in a long time. But you win that 7th game. You go to Boston. Boston already has a lot of eyes on them. And if you are able to be competitive in that series, I definitely think it changes the NBA's perception of this team, too. And, man, City of Orlando gets rocking. Don't forget that Game 3 was prime time on ABC. That would have been crazy at Kia Center, a Saturday night primetime ABC game with Mike Breen on the call and everything. That would have been crazy. But Yeah, that one's interesting, and hopefully it's something in the future when we do this. What if, in 5 years or whatever, when we do it again?
What if we won 6 championships instead of 5?
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say, hopefully this is not a what if that is consequential. I don't think it will be. Like when we have the what ifs coming up, hopefully this one isn't on it in 5 years. But it is interesting to think about now, especially with how recent it was. Just a couple months ago. But hey, at least the 7-game series, attracted free agent, KCP, like we talked about and everything.
KC3PO.
KC3PO. Before we go into our teased segment where we talk about what I mentioned earlier, show and tell, which I think is going to be really fun, where we're showing off some old Magic memorabilia and stuff. 2 things I wanted to share. First off, Jonathan, we didn't say we're going to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about this. Our next episode, Monday, we want to do something we've never done before. Jonathan, you want to pitch this idea? I think this is a hilarious idea. We've never done anything like this. The show's been around for 5 years, and you can get involved. Jonathan, what are we doing?
Yeah, I thought this would be just something fun that we could do. This is the one of the dead parts of the off season. Obviously, we're going to have the Olympics that we can talk about, but I always find it fun when we get the chance to have listeners be more involved in the show and do a mailbag. But this mailbag, I'm hoping is going to be a little bit different. Usually, obviously when we're doing a mailbag, we're getting questions about the Orlando Magic. I thought it would be a lot of fun that if the next episode, we open up the mailbag to any question that you have with one rule that it cannot have anything to do with the Orlando Magic. So anything you ever wanted to know about us, anything that you want to think of, even if it's something ridiculous like, who would win in a fight, a polar bear or a shark in 3 feet of water, like anything like that, any kind of question that you want to pose for the next episode, it's going to be like an anything but magic mailbag.
Can't wait.
I thought it'd be fun to do that.
That's going to be so fun. So that's like your would you rather questions, your like icebreaker questions, your non-Magic sports related question, like literally anything. And I'm going to say you can submit that any way you want. We have a voicemail bag, you can submit it there. We'll put the number in the description. You can send it on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. We'll open up all the options. We're going to collect those in a non-Orlando Magic mailbag. I think that is going to be so much fun. So anyway, want to let you guys know about that. You can get involved in that. That's going to be a lot of fun. The other thing, Jonathan, before we get to our show and tell segment, we have to show and tell and thank our awesome patrons. These are the people that financially support the Six Man Show by helping us out in all kinds of different tiers we have available at patreon.com/the Six Man Show. These are the people, like I said, that make things happen. The show is not free. Things cost money. And these are the people that actually make it happen. So on each and every episode, we shout out our brand new patrons as well as our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. So I'm going to thank our friends, the Court Cousins, Drew Gooden, Armin, Carson Tulo, Ellis, Jonathan Borges, Normal, Magic Player History, Gabe Gaines, Wiffle, Michael Martin, Jamel Miller, Michael Salapong, Donkey Punch Dave, Paolo and Franz's Warmth, Pierre A., Dylan Holden, Mr. Mikey, Eduardo Sanchez, Danimal, Bobby Skinner, Goody93, Teddy Sylvia, Dalek Lopez, Fuchsia, Bill Fulton, Edmund Ligone. I said that terribly. Edmund Ligone, Jose Esquilin, Caleb P., Andy at Cannibalism, Ty Mr. TV, ESPN Really Sucks, Gear 95 Shred, Junior Bruce, Half Rican, Shahin 177, Bobby the Don, Himlo Band Himro, R Improv 221, Ray Pastrana, Magic Kid 714, Mysterious Mosley, Irish Magic Mike, Austin Lampy, Random Hustle, Only Franz, Maria, Keith Wallace, Fritz, Bruv Sal, Kason Green, Santi Leone, Kane Eckler, The Distract, Ahmad Timsa, Chansu, Tom Gadsden, Dead Air, Richard Tuttle, Jeremiah Quintero, Magic Wire, D-Bowl 1980, Magic Matt, Michael Thompson, Mama Richmond, Next Napa, What's Up Playoffs 2024, Dylan Fay, David Duffy, Smith's Chic Ship Sinks, Bueno Time, Stantino 1995, Suggs Muggs, Daniel Anderson Berry, Mackerel Canny, and Will Spivey. Thanks to all of our patrons, especially to our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. Appreciate you guys so much, and be on the lookout for our July patron Zoom call with our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. That's coming up soon. So anyway, big shout out to all of our patrons. Thanks for supporting the Six Man Show. All right, Jonathan, show and tell time. We were thinking about this episode, and I was thinking about Jonathan and I both have a unique collection of Orlando Magic stuff, like all kinds of stuff. Jonathan tends to have more of the things that are worth something, right? Like John, I'm serious. Like Jonathan has a good collection of like notable items, autographed things, memorabilia that could actually resell. I have just a weird assortment of crap from over the years of watching this team and going to games and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought it would be fun if we kind of each took a moment and did a little show and tell, show off a little something that we got, tell a little story about it, and see what happens. I think some Magic fans are really going to enjoy this. We haven't talked about who goes first. Jonathan, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I'll go first. I gotta go over this way to grab some of this stuff. We'll take turns.
We'll let you do one, and I'll do one, and we'll kind of go
out my headphones.
We'll kind of go back and forth when we do this. So we haven't shared these with each other. So this is show and tell literally to each other as well. So I'm really excited.
I think everything that I'm going to show here, I'm pretty sure you've already seen. So this first thing here, before I bring it into the camera, was a gift from my brother for my most recent, my 30th birthday last year. And it's a pretty unique item. I've never really seen anything like it before. Let me go ahead and pull it up into the camera here. So if you can see this, it's basically an Orlando Magic helmet, like a mini helmet, like a mini football helmet, that has been branded Orlando Magic, has the old school Orlando Magic logo on it. And it is autographed by Shaquille O'Neal. And then there is an autographed Shaquille O'Neal rookie card in that. And it's in this really nice looking display case that it has like a hardwood floor on the bottom with some like pictures. I think it's like the Magic logo in the background. And then I have this little button here that when I turn it on, it's like a little spotlight on the helmet and the rookie card there. So I just like this. Yeah, it's a pretty neat little thing that my brother had put together for me. And I just really like it because, it's kind of obscure. It's an Orlando Magic football helmet, something that you don't really see much. And the fact that it's signed by Shaquille O'Neal, definitely one of the, my favorite pieces of my Magic memorabilia collection.
That's amazing. First off, I meant to mention this. If you're listening on a podcast, this might be a good time. I mean, you can always hear. We'll describe it as best we can. But if you want to see these things, definitely recommend going over to the YouTube channel. We'll put chapter markers in there so you can skip to this part of the show. But anyway, also want to say, if you liked that Orlando Magic football helmet and you play college football 25, you too can play an Orlando Magic uniform.
Shameless plug. I like
your boy Kevin made a little. In the team builder, kind of went hard in the paint with the Magic stuff.
I gotta give you your props.
I love the stuff that I did, the normal like Magic stuff. But my favorite, I made an alternate uniform that was centered around stuff.
Is fire.
It's pretty wild.
How do you use that? Like, what mode are you able to use that in?
Any mode.
You can make a dynasty. You can make a
dynasty with the Orlando Magic, which I plan to do.
So how does that work? Do you just select like an existing school's roster and start from there?
No. So you as part of the team building process, you can make a roster.
So I can make Paolo Banchero be my 6'10" quarterback.
That's right. So then how it works in dynasty is you would pick a team to replace.
That is so
let's
sick.
say you pick
get rid of the Florida Gators.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say you pick Florida. You're going to inherit all of their university stats. So like whatever their prestige is and all that kind of stuff. So you might want to pick a better university than that.
I mean, you could do a lot worse, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, whatever. But anyway, so that's how that works. So if you do play CFB 25, you can just search Magic or Orlando Magic in the team builder like download area. And you'll know it's mine because it's the best looking one. That's all I'm going to say. And you'll know it's mine if you find the stuff uniform because it's pretty awesome. Okay, my turn. We're doing 3 of these each, by the way. So this is my first one. All of my stuff is based in certain eras, and I've kind of got a group of things. So this first one, again, like I said, I don't have anything worth a lot. I just have things that are kind of funny and lame and just show how much of a loser was. This first category, these are my 2 firsts. I have my very first Orlando Magic shirt and my very first Orlando Magic jersey. Okay. So my very first Orlando Magic shirt, as I mentioned in the last episode, I moved to Central Florida.
Get real close here. So if you see me on YouTube getting close to the camera, it's because I literally cannot see.
Jonathan in 3D. Okay, here we go.
Good look at my receding hairline.
In 1999. And so I got there right after the 99 season. And so that was when the Orlando Magic made the playoffs. So 7-year-old Kevin
fire, dude,
got this 1999 NBA playoffs, Eastern Conference playoffs shirt. Now, I didn't get to go to this game. This was after, I got there after this. I moved in May, and so it was right after this. But I got the shirt because I thought it was cool.
That is absolutely wicked.
It's actually really cool. It is very faded, and it also obviously is way too small. I was freaking 7. But if this
vintage,
was bigger,
bro.
It is vintage. If this was bigger, I could sell this for a little something. This vintage
you
stuff goes.
You could sell that for a little something regardless. Somebody will buy that for their kid. I know. I'm just saying. I bought a starter throwback jacket from our boy Gio over at Players Only Closet.
Yeah.
I paid a pretty penny for it. So people are willing to pay for stuff like that.
But yeah, I love how it's got like the electric charge around
I love that.
Sick? That's my very, very first Orlando Magic shirt. And
that's incredible.
That means so much to me. I will never. You could offer me $500 and I would take it. Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
My other thing is my very first Orlando Magic jersey. It is a Mr. Dwight Howard jersey. This thing is looking a little bit rank, but here it is. Old school, not swingman. I couldn't afford as a young middle schooler, I couldn't get the swingman, but I did get what did they call this back then? I don't remember what they called this one. That's like replica. That's right. How it's so thin and. Yeah, anyway, this is it. Old Adidas, old school, the ugliest uniforms of Magic history.
Dude, I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you did. Those jerseys suck.
Anyone who likes these compared to our other jerseys, I don't have a sense of style, but you really don't. So anyway,
man.
That's my first round. Those are my firsts.
So I didn't mean to grab these. I was going to show you these before we started recording, actually, but now they're in my way to get to what I really want to show you, so I'm going to show you them anyway.
Let's see it.
I made some purchases during the playoffs.
This past
playoff run. So I've got, these are all the classic. I've got the Jonathan Isaac autographed.
Whoa.
This is I spent more money than I wanted to. The Franz Wagner autographed classic.
Oh my goodness.
And I finished it off with the Jalen Suggs autograph. I knew that if I didn't get them now, I probably would never be able to get them.
Right. Because they're the classics.
Because they're the classics.
Right.
And what do they call it? Like the great white buffalo, like the thing that just eludes you forever. Mm-hmm. It's going to be the Paolo Banchero. I wasn't able to track it down, but really out of all the jerseys that I own, I do want to get a Terrence Ross so that I'll have that in my collection. But the next thing will be a Paolo Banchero. But the next actual item that I wanted to show you, and this is, I'm trying to do this without it falling over and breaking and me sobbing in front of everyone. This is going to be interesting to pull this up. So at the peak of COVID, when nobody was going anywhere, I stopped at a card shop in Tarpon Springs, Florida, called Wonder Water was the name of this card shop. And I asked them if they have any Orlando Magic, anything. So they bring me over to this area of cards that they have, and they have some old school stuff, nothing that was really of any value. And they said, wait a minute, we also have this ball. So this ball, I'm pulling this up here, is signed by the entire 2008-2009 Eastern Conference champion Orlando Magic team. And do you want to know how much I bought this basketball for, Kevin? $125.
What a deal.
I bought. When the guy said that, I looked at my wife and said, honey, I have to buy this. I will never see this basketball again. And this is so undervalued. It's ridiculous. Yeah. You name it. I mean, Turk's on here, Rashard Lewis.
I see Stan Van Gundy's Howard, like huge
Stan Van Gundy right across the middle.
Yeah.
Steve Clifford is on here somewhere. Jameer Nelson, like JJ Redick. Yeah. Everybody is on this ball. I think it's probably my very favorite piece of in the entire collection, just given what it is and how much I paid for it. And the fact that I found it in freaking Tarpon Springs, Florida, of all places.
Wow.
Just, one of my favorite pieces right there.
What are the odds? That's super cool. That is really cool. All right. My next one is it's just obscure. The third thing that I'm going to show you is my favorite stuff. I think it's really fun. This is super obscure. One of them's right here, and one of them is actually behind me. See if I can grab this without making a mess. In 2007, the Orlando Magic made the playoffs. And in the first round, they played the Detroit Pistons. It did not go well. 4-game sweep. Not fun. But for that season, the playoff slogan was Code Blue.
Wow.
So, throwing it back to the Code Blue days, 2007, Code Blue didn't last very long because the medical community, there are a lot of reasons, but the medical community reminded everyone, you know what Code Blue means? In most medical centers, it means the person is dying. Okay. And so, like, when you roll out there with Code Blue, and then you get swept in 4 games. Yeah, it didn't go well. I went to
You get
game
rid
3.
of the slogan.
Yeah, I went to game 3, which was really fun because it was also ending a playoff drought, kind of like what did we talk about, 2019 earlier. And so that was a lot of fun. I also got a little like necklace thing that night.
Little medallion.
And so, yep, I have a couple other things in another box from 2007. But yeah, this was my go-to. Oh, I don't know why I didn't think about this. It's in another box. But I also brought a sign to that game because it was on TNT. And so you know how you spell things out with signs in the hopes that the TV company will put you on TV, and I did that. I spelled out TNT, and how I did that was I had a picture of Dwight, and the phrase was the next big thing, like calling Dwight the next big thing, and with T the next N and then big thing Dwight. But stupid Kevin, I was in the upper bowl of the old Orlando Arena. Like there was a 0% chance I was getting on TV, but I still brought it. And so anyway, that was fun. Magic got absolutely shellacked by the Pistons, Chauncey Billups and Richard Hamilton and Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace and all that stuff. But I had a good time. And so anyway, that's my second one from 2007.
All right, my third and final piece. Some people are going to think this is a little bit silly, but to this point, this is legitimately one of the biggest and most iconic moments in Orlando Magic history. So what I have here, and I'll bring this up so that you can see it in the camera, is an autographed, I think this is like a 14 by 20 or something like that sized image of Aaron Gordon performing the chair in the air dunk over stuff from the 2016 dunk contest, signed by Aaron Gordon. Then up at the top, he scribed the Air Gordon, and this is legitimately one of the best moments in the history of the Orlando Magic. It's top 10 probably, I would say, which is a sad thing, but it's a piece of Orlando Magic history, and I believe I also got a really good deal on it, so I figured why not. And just iconic, in my opinion, the greatest dunk in the history of the NBA slam dunk contest. And to be able to have it signed by the man with the little inscription, and it's sort of like a what do they call this, like spotlight photo, where everything else is in black and white except for stuff and Aaron Gordon. It's got the little Toronto All-Star logo there, so that's my favorite. And then this last piece, Kevin, I didn't want to tell you about it. I don't know if you've ever even seen this, but I keep it with all of my other memorabilia stuff. And I said that the Magic ball is probably my favorite thing in my collection. But if I had to keep one thing in this room, this is what it would be. My wife had this made for me a few years ago on Father's Day, and it is the Spider Dad bobblehead. I don't know if you can see that or if you can read that.
Yes.
It says Spider Dad. It is a Spider-Man body, and then my wife had my head sculpted on this bobblehead. You can see both of us doing the bobblehead action right now, and I fell to the floor laughing when she got me this. And it's one of my favorite things that I have.
That is amazing. That is awesome, dude. That's very fun. All right, my third and final one, again, just an eclectic gathering of all kinds of things. I could do like several more of these show and tells, by the way. This is all from one box. I've got all kinds of other boxes.
Did you grab the Michael Doliak?
No, that's in a different box.
You should have grabbed that because we just talked about that.
We just talked about it. I'll have to get that next time. So, little backstory. Like I said, I grew up in Central Florida, but I moved away before things got really fun with Dwight. And so in 2009, when the Magic went to the finals, I lived in Virginia, but I got to fly down and go to one game in that playoff run. And it was game 6 against the Celtics. And so some of these things are from that. So I do have the program from that game, which was just an electric night, like so much fun. I also have the shirt from that game, which was blue and white Ignite. So this is the white one. Still, it's sweat stained on the collar because we were sweating. It was such a close game and a lot of fun. But yeah, 2009.
Have you worn it since that night?
No.
That's awesome.
No, yeah. Also because it was too big for me at the time. I could wear it now, no problem. But at the time, it was too big. All right, and these things are more so from the season. I do have the media guide from the 2008-2009 season, which is kind of fun. Like the actual physical media guide with all kinds of stats and pictures and stuff. This one, though, Jonathan, I actually forgot I had until tonight when we decided we're going to do this, and I went looking for it, looking through my stuff, and I saw this. So not only is this the calendar for that year, 2008-2009, but what it shows is how much of a nerd loser I was/am.
Oh no.
I'm actually kind of proud of this. I'm going to open this up for you.
It's
First off,
marked
it was
every win and loss.
It was a
isn't
20-year anniversary calendar, which made it really cool because they had all kinds of cool stuff in there, right? But if I were to go to, you called it.
I knew it.
You can see it. Every win, every loss, but also all kinds of special things, which this part's really cool. Wednesday, November 12th, victory over the Thunder, Dwight's first triple-double of his career.
Wow.
I wrote these things. November 26th, a win over the Sixers, Rashard Lewis game-winning three-pointer. And down in the corner, I put what they did in that month. 13-2 in November, 7-2 at home, 6-0 away. That kind of stuff. And I did that for every single stinking month. Portland, win. Turks game-winning bank 3 with 0.3 left. December's stats, all that kind of stuff. All the way through, including...
this is what I love about you. This is awesome.
Right? February 19th, Magic acquire Rafer Alston. Think about what that ended up meaning eventually, right? Isn't that crazy?
This is when you were on the Real GM, like a degenerate.
No, I wasn't on Real GM. I was on Orlando Magic's message board.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. Sorry.
Monday, February 2nd, Jameer, torn labrum, out for season. You know how painful it was for young Kevin to write that?
Yeah.
I got the All-Star Weekend stuff. I mean, so yeah, this was it. This was again, I forgot.
Is that a picture of the DeVos family? What is that?
Yeah, of course. There's Pat. Rest in peace, Pat.
Man.
But yeah, down here, of course,
they put a picture of the DeVos family. Well, I guess it's a 20-year anniversary. That does make sense.
So, and this was before the season, so of course the playoff games weren't printed. So I wrote in each and every playoff game, including the time and the TV
really
network
something.
and all that kind of stuff, which went all the way into June. So,
the fact that like 15, 16-year-old Kevin was worried about what TV network the games were on absolutely tracks.
Nerd alert. Yeah. So anyway, this thing's super cool. Like I said, we could do a whole episode on this. Like,
that's fantastic.
I just have so much random crap that I've collected over the years. But anyway, I don't even think any of that's my favorite. I have some other stuff that's probably although this calendar might be my favorite now. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that is really cool that you have that.
That's some of the stuff I grabbed. We might have to do this again sometime. You've still got a lot more crap. I've got some stuff too.
I have so much stuff, but it's just like I have a massive painting of Dwight Howard from the Hito Turkoglu lob and the alley-oop dunk, the game winner over the Spurs. But it's massive. Like it's probably 24 by 36, and it's framed up on my wall. Like, yeah, I'm not bringing that down. Yeah. I've got tons of jerseys behind me. I have tons of autographed cards and like bobbleheads all over the place, like little knickknacks and stuff. But what I love about when we do stuff like this is like we want to see your collections as well. So you want to take a video or a photo and send that to us, or send it to our email or social media. Yeah. I love seeing other people's like collections of Magic crap. It's one of my favorite pastimes.
Twitter/X is definitely our favorite place for that. So if you are on there, go ahead and like tweet at us pictures of whatever, whether it's random crap you've got from games or stuff you've purchased, autograph stuff. I also have this next to here. This is the poster they gave out at the inaugural Amway Center game.
John Wall's debut.
Yep, opening night against the Wizards. John Wall's debut. It's not a picture. It's a portrait.
Yeah, that's
so it was
amazing.
very interesting. They made this work of art before the game.
Right.
Like they basically had to predict what it was going to look like, who was going to play, and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
But I love this.
I have a ticket from the very first home game somewhere over here, and I also have a ticket from that game, the very first game at Amway as well.
That's what this one is up here behind me. That's the ticket from that game.
I can't see anything, dude. I'm blind
it's
as
true.
a bat right now.
Up above
I
me,
believe you.
That's the ticket to that same game. So,
I believe it.
Anyway, this was a fun trip down memory lane. We might have to. This might become a regular off-season.
I also have a Markelle Fultz autograph ball that I have to figure out what I'm going to do with at this point.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. That was touching, though, to see some of the guys share on social media for Markelle, Admiral, Kevon. Joe was also mentioned for their departures. We saw a couple guys mention that on social media. But anyway.
Rough.
We might have to do this every off season. This was fun.
Yeah,
this little,
for sure.
Little show and tell thing. Hope you guys enjoyed
I'll have
that.
to tell Carmen I got to buy more stuff so we could do another off season episode. She'll love that.
Yeah, you have a year, Jonathan. Get some stuff together.
I got to get the Paolo together. I got to make that happen. It's only right.
Yeah.
I have I got, Franz's autograph card last year. Now I have the jersey. I don't have the Paolo autograph card or the jersey because each of those are hundreds of dollars at this point. Number 1 overall pick, rookie of the year, all-star, all that kind of stuff that just comes with the territory. But, we'll make it happen eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to do it. Jonathan, this was fun, man. You want to take us home? What else you got?
Yeah, I just want to say, we want to do that, anything but magic mailbag, I think, is a good name for it. So any questions that you have, anything that you want to know, could be the most random thing in the world. We don't care. The more random, the better, honestly.
True.
We want to have a lot of fun with that. 407-603-1189 is the voicemail. 6manshow@gmail.com if you want to email those to us. You want to send those to us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever, or YouTube comments are always helpful as well. But just the most random, weird questions that you want to throw at us, want to have a special mailbag episode like that next week. So, that's going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the 6-Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the 6th Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at 6 Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!